This is part 2, episode 66. The girl turned around slightly, and her flowing powder blue hair fell in front of her. Her hair flowed down from her shoulders like tidal waves as she let it out from the veil. She still refused to speak, and she didn't even open her mouth. However, this simple hint made Hui Yuhao shudder violently. His speculation had finally been affirmed. The girl didn't speak, but perhaps that was because she was embarrassed. She didn't reveal her appearance, perhaps because she didn't want to attract the other men. In the end, if she was truly as beautiful as the goddess of light, then she would have been the most enchanting and alluring girl in this entire event. She must be Wang Dong's sister, Wang Chioa. Hui Yuhao didn't hesitate any longer after this. He was no longer the blurred and confused teenager from before, and the warm passion merged with the figure that was imprinted in the deepest parts of his soul. Everyone took the initiative to express their feelings, so how could he have no reaction at all? Hui Yuhao floated up from the water lily and shifted backwards, landing on the water's surface behind him as he gestured at the girl to say, "Please." In this moment, his heart's decision had been made, and whether he would end up with Wang Chioa in the end, she had given him a chance, and he would have to try to grasp the opportunity. She was his best buddy's twin sister, and she had the same appearance as the girl of his dreams. Was there anything more perfect than this? Even if his heart couldn't completely accept this, out of all the women here today, only this, Wang Chioa, who had yet to reveal her appearance, attracted him. The young woman jumped forward gently and landed on the water lily before Hui Yuhao. She nodded in his direction, but still said nothing. The water beneath Hui Yuhao's feet was frozen into ice. He stared at the young girl several meters in front of him, wrapped in a long dress and still wearing her conical bamboo hat. He didn't know why, but a strong sense of familiarity rose from his heart and made him even more emotional. Why does she give me such a strong sense of familiarity? However, this sense of familiarity didn't feel the same as when he had first met Wang Chioa. Hui Yuhao was a spiritual-type soul master, so his perception was extremely sharp, and he was one to trust his feelings and instincts. This was especially so after he had obtained the Eye of Destiny, and his senses became even keener. Zhong Leshuan smiled and said, "Looks like Hui Yuhao has a lot of chemistry with this mysterious girl. Did you guys arrange this beforehand? We will find out in the final segment. Let's carry on." Hui Yuhao didn't make a move. A huge cauldron suddenly appeared beside Hikaitu. Xiao Xiao was a little anxious as she said, "Come up." Once someone dropped into the water, he or she would be eliminated. At this point, she didn't bother with being embarrassed anymore. As lights flashed again, she had brought her cauldron in front of Hikaitu. Hikaitu pressed his hands lightly against the three-live soul-crush cauldron. He lifted himself up and landed on the cauldron. As he was too agitated, his lips were actually trembling slightly. "Xiao Xiao," Hikaitu blurted out softly. "Yes?" Xiao Xiao lowered her head. "I'll treat you well, okay? I really like you." "Okay." No matter what Hikaitu said, Xiao Xiao replied with only one word. She lowered her head and did not dare to look at him. After 2.5 years of separation, they were finally standing together. Their passionate hearts were getting closer and closer to each other. Zhong Leshuan touched Bei Bei. "You can do it." "All right." Bei Bei had fully regained control of his emotions. As he looked at Xu Sancha and Jiang Nan, as well as Hikaitu and Xiao Xiao, he was delighted that they had all found their true loves, the fate of 3 lifetimes on the three-live soul-crush cauldron. "Kaitu, you must grab your opportunity well." Bei Bei's called out. Hikaitu shouted, "Eldest senior, I'll grab hold of this opportunity. No one else will choose me. Seniors and juniors, don't choose me anymore. I already have a date, ha ha ha." Hikaitu's confession attracted a lot of laughter, and the atmosphere became much more relaxed. Xiao Xiao was still shy. As she reached her hand out, she slapped Hikaitu's neck and said softly, "You're like black charcoal. Who else is as stupid as me to choose you? You're too full of yourself." Hikaitu chortled, "It's not painful." "Slap me again, I'm scared that I'm dreaming." Xiao Xiao didn't slap him, but instead lightly caressed the spot she had just slapped. She said softly, "Aren't you willing to see me in your dream?" He too touched his bald head. I'm willing, of course I'm willing. However, what do I do when I wake up if this is a dream? Xiao Xiao finally smiled. If this is a dream, you can sit down then. The fourth segment was still ongoing. Another lady appeared. This lady wore a hat and veil just like the number 2 student in front of Hui Yuhao. As she appeared, she waved her right hand, and a streak of light appeared above the water's surface. Hui Yuhao's eyes were very sharp, and he was stunned to realize that it was a shuttle-type soul tool. That female student drifted onto the soul tool and stood on it steadily. Her figure glided slowly towards the male students. As she glided, she also removed her hat and revealed her charming looks. The number 1 auxiliary-type martial soul on the continent, the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. Of course she was qualified to enter the inner courtyard. Even though she had no fighting abilities, she was definitely one of the strongest auxiliary-type soul masters around. Hui Yuhao was also enlightened. No wonder she had looked so familiar at first sight. She was actually Ning Chen. After so many years, Ning Chen's figure and looks had developed so drastically that he hadn't recognized her. Compared to before, she felt much simpler now. There was also a refined aura about her within the simplicity which made others feel good about her. As an auxiliary-type soul master, I need someone strong to protect me. That's why I'm choosing someone who can protect me. I believe I can help him reach the peak of the continent. She wore a smile on her face as she spoke, and glided up before the male students. No one doubted her words. There were many willing participants in the inner courtyard who wanted to protect her. With the aid of the 7 treasures glazed pagoda, their abilities were bound to rise at least by 40%. Once her 7 treasures glazed pagoda rose to become a 9 treasures glazed pagoda, she would have the power to change the outcome of a battle single-handedly. The eyes of the young men started to heat up. Even Dai Huabin's gaze flashed a little as he heard her words. Among the female students of the same grade, Ning Chen was the only one who could attract him. She was even more attractive than Shu Lu. However, he possessed a martial soul fusion skill with Shu Lu, and they were very close. He couldn't choose his wife, and he hadn't come here today to find a girlfriend. However, he was tempted as he looked at Ning Chen gliding over. Ning Chen went straight for her target. Hui Yuhao was still thinking about his impression of Ning Chen from before. However, his eyes very quickly widened. That was because he discovered that she was approaching him. Surely not? Surely. Before he even finished thinking those words, she was already close in front of him. She nodded towards him slightly, as if she didn't see the number 2 female student that was already in front of him. In my eyes, you're the person who can protect me. I'm willing to follow you with the 7 treasures glazed pagoda. Can you give me a piece of ice? Hui Yuhao was in shock as their eyes met. Ning Chen was a little shy, but the look in her eyes was very resolute. Yes, Hui Yuhao was her choice, not because she liked him, but because he was strong enough. She was interested in Hui Yuhao's abilities. As for feelings, she believed that they could be nurtured. She was also confident of attracting Hui Yuhao with her talents. Being very self-confident, she still chose Hui Yuhao even though the number 2 female student had already approached him earlier. Before Hui Yuhao could even react, the snow lady pointed with her finger and created a patch of ice in front of Ning Chen. After doing this, she even clapped her hands. She started to giggle. She gave off the feeling that everything was fine, thank you. Ning Chen smiled elegantly and lifted the sides of her dress with both hands. She descended onto the patch of ice. 2 yellow, 2 purple and 1 black soul rings started to rise from her feet. As she lifted her right hand, a streak of bright light appeared in her palm. A 7-story pagoda flashing with dazzling lights appeared on her palm. As her soul rings drifted up, they eventually surrounded the pagoda. Under the illumination of her soul rings, the pagoda became brighter and brighter. Ning Chen said softly, "This glazed pagoda has 7 stories. Strength, speed, soul, defense, attack." Suddenly, a weird scene appeared. The pagoda flew up and expanded, as her 5 soul rings shone in succession. 5 streaks of rainbow light were also released, and landed on Hui Yuhao's body, engulfing him. In the dark night, he was covered by a rich array of colors. Instantly, he felt his cultivation soaring. It wasn't just his cultivation, his strength, speed, soul power, and other aspects were enhanced as well. Hu Yuhao seemed to hear someone saying to him, 5 auxiliary skills unleashed at the same time. This is the scattered heart of 5 apertures. Not only has her cultivation increased to that of a soul king, but her control of the 7 treasures glazed pagoda has also reached that level. The lights around Hu Yuhao's body retracted, but the enhancements remained. He even felt like he had become a soul emperor. Ning Chen smiled and replied, "You used your soul skills just now. Perhaps you became a little tired. I helped you recover. When I reach rank 60, I can even perform elemental enhancements. Which means I can enhance your ice element to become even more ultimate." Hu Yuhao complimented, "Your 7 treasures glazed pagoda is indeed very strong." Fiwem.com. Ning Chen smiled without saying anything. From the start, she didn't even look at the number 2 female student beside her. When she unleashed her 5 soul skills, she only had one intention, to attract Hu Yuhao with her abilities. Without a doubt, his fighting abilities and survivability would increase greatly if he had support from a 7 treasures glazed pagoda to help him on the battlefield. The 5 soul skills she had just unleashed were strength enhancement, agility enhancement, soul power enhancement, defensive enhancement and offensive enhancement. The simplest way to appraise her enhancements on Hu Yuhao was that she raised him from a soul king into a soul emperor. This was too exaggerated of an increase. It clearly showed how strong she was. Her 7 treasures glazed pagoda wasn't called the number 1 auxiliary type martial soul on the continent for nothing. Although Ning Chen didn't look at the number 2 female student, she was secretly monitoring her all this while. It would be normal if she became sarcastic or antagonistic, but this female student had no reaction. She was so peaceful that Ning Chen found it weird. She only stood there from the start till the end, watching coldly. After all, she had entered the inner courtyard earlier. In addition, she was very competitive, so no one would have it good if they were together with her. Generally speaking, ordinary guys were more interested in gentle ladies. Wu Ming stopped in the air, and everyone started to become fearful. Then she moved suddenly. Her figure drifted down, and she landed in front of someone. As her wings flapped open, they pointed towards the water lily that one guy was standing on. Chu Qingqian was shocked when he saw Wu Ming. Honestly speaking, Wu Ming did appear slightly ravishing, illuminated by the golden flames in this dark night as she was. However, Chu Qingqian was perplexed as to why she appeared before him. "What are you looking at? Give space on the water lily to me. Are you not a man?" Wu Ming shouted, "Oh. Chu Qingqian retreated in shock and gave her the water lily. Wu Ming was pleased with this reaction. At least he's willing to give it up. However, Chu Qingqian dropped straight into the lake water when she landed on the water lily. Splash! Ripples were formed, and water scattered everywhere. The male students were also shocked, and someone muttered, "Decisive. Strong. Chu. Qing. Tian." Wu Ming raged, and her palm struck toward the lake water in front of her. A palm formed by golden flames struck the water, vaporizing a large volume of it. Chu Qingqian had only just resurfaced from the water at this point, but he was slapped back into the water by this palm. Fortunately, he was an agility-type soul master. When he was struck back into the lake water, he was jolted awake. As lightning flashed, he flew out of the water and several tens of meters into the air. He managed to avoid the palm. "Don't attack me. It was unintentional," Chu Qingqian shouted. He didn't flee. Although he was confident in his speed, he didn't run. He didn't want to be chased by the Golden Crow Holy Lady for the rest of his life. He had witnessed how strong Wu Ming was before. Once, she had chased a soul beast into the core region of the Great Star Do Forest after it ambushed her. If a human blocked her, she would kill him. If a soul beast blocked her, she would kill it. Although Chu Qingqian was drenched, he still looked at her with a deep gaze. "I didn't expect you to choose me." You also saw how he Kai-Tu reacted. Didn't he say that one of his legs fell into the water because he was scared of Xiao Xiao? It was because he was too excited, that's why he couldn't control himself. I'm in a similar situation, But my surprise was more intense. That's why I fell into the water. This shows how much more I like you. What? Is that really so? Wu Ming was in a daze from his flowery words. Chu Qingtian nodded his head resolutely. Of course. Think about what I said when I exhibited myself. In fact, I'm a person with no self-confidence. That's why I said I'd be willing as long as someone was willing to accept me. However, everyone has someone he or she likes no matter how inferior he or she feels. Maybe you don't remember, but there was once a batch of inner courtyard students went into the Great Stardow Forest to hunt soul beasts. That time, your courage and strength deeply attracted me. Although you're a lady, you're a true hero in my eyes. I can still clearly remember how you stood in front of me when I was attacked by soul beasts. From that moment on, your figure has been deeply carved into my mind. As he spoke till here, he lowered his head slightly and sighed. He said, however, I know that an outstanding lady like you will only choose the best. Why would you choose someone as ordinary as me? Besides speed, I've nothing outstanding. I'm not handsome either. That's why I could only watch you from one side. I didn't even have the courage to confess to you. It was only today that I acted impulsively in the first segment when I confirmed your position. That was why I didn't hesitate to take your hat. In fact, I didn't expect to have any fate with you today. I never hoped that you'd choose me. I only took your hat to take one more look at you on this blind date. Think about it. How can I not be agitated after my dreams have turned into reality? Eldest senior sister, please give me a chance to stand on the water lily again. If the rules don't allow it, then heaven must be playing a trick on me. After he finished speaking, he revealed a sad look on his face. Wu Ming looked at him in a daze. Are you for real? You've always liked me, yes. Chu Qingtian nodded vigorously. At this point, most of the male students had a discriminatory look in their eyes. Is this guy pulling out a surprise? Surely not. This is more like a shock. However, his acting is impeccable and he's smooth. Wu Ming's been tricked by him. Thank you, eldest senior sister. Wu Ming's voice suddenly turned excited, and she thanked Zhong Lishuan. After that, she turned her attention to all the female students and said, today, I hope to leave with Chu Qingtian. I'm a direct person, so I won't say anything else. I hope that all of you will give me this chance. I'll remember this favor. If there's anything you need, just tell me. As Bei Bei looked at Wu Ming, he muttered, Sister Wu Ming is so steady. If she were a guy, she'd be really impressive. Zhong Lishuan glanced at him and said, stop with the sarcasm. Do you really think Wu Ming can't hear the insincerity in Chu Qingtian's words? Don't judge her by her fierce appearance. In fact, very few know about her equally fierce intelligence. She doesn't want to be hurt again and wants to fight for another chance for herself. That's why she didn't expose him. Let's see what Chu Qingtian's going to do. If he brings Ming back today and hurts her in the future, I won't let him go. Bei Bei turned fearful. In that instant, he clearly felt the seriousness in her words, and didn't even dare to look at her eldest senior sister. You should also find a guy. Zhong Lishuan shot him a cold look. Shut up. Bei Bei shut his mouth immediately and lowered his head. He even looked quite guilty. Sister, I'm sorry, Zhong Lishuan said, it was my choice. What has it got to do with you? Since I made that choice years ago, I won't change it. All right, let's get back to official business. No one doubted Wu Ming's words. Whether it was because the male students were scared of her, or the female students shared a good relationship with her or wanted her to owe them a favor, they granted her the perfect ending she always wanted. All right. Since there are no objections, we shall grant this exception to Chu Qingtian. Thank you, eldest senior sister. Chu Qingtian was drenched as he leapt up from the water. Wu Ming gestured towards him, and he landed on the water lily. The water lily had a diameter of 1 meter, and thus it was fine for 2 people to stand on it together. It was just that they would have to stand rather close to each other. Chu Qingtian smelled a refreshing scent as he stood beside Wu Ming. It was the smell of a quilt laying in the sun. It was comfortable, clean, and refreshing. Wu Ming took a look at him and said softly, "If you're lying to me, I'm going to castrate you." Chu Qingqian's butt clenched, and he shook his head vigorously. "Of course not." Wu Ming lifted his hand and softly placed it on his back. Suddenly, a warm flow started to engulf his body. His drenched clothing quickly dried up, but he wasn't burned by the heat. Wu Ming's control of the Golden Crow primordial fire had reached a high level. Wu Ming said softly, "I'll try to be gentler with you. Okay?" Huo Hao, He Kai Tu, and Bei Bei were the first to be shocked when they saw this man. They recognized him, especially Huo Hao. That was because this middle-aged man was once their class teacher, and he was the teacher that had led them to victory in the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament, Wang Yang. When they returned from the tournament, he was given the opportunity to carry out martial soul research in the library of the Sea Gods Pavilion. Huo Hao had only seen him very infrequently since then, and hadn't expected him to show up today, teacher Wang Yang. Han Ruoruo was also stunned when she saw him. She hadn't expected that no student would confess to her, but a teacher would. In terms of age, Wang Yang was indeed very suitable for her. However, he was a teacher. Furthermore, Wang Yang's cultivation was only at 6 rings. Today's blind date was destined to be extraordinary. Wang Yang looked at Han Ruoruo calmly. "How are you, Ruoruo? I know that I'm being a little out of the blue. However, I also know that this is my only chance. I'm not young either, I'm already 40, I dedicated my life to researching martial souls. I know that my cultivation isn't high and I'm not fit to be with you. However, just like Le Xuan said, one shouldn't be embarrassed about fighting for their own happiness. That's why I'm willing to walk out and confess my admiration for you." Han Ruoruo was in a daze as she looked at him and said, You're into me." Although Wang Yang's gaze was very calm, he possessed a form of sincerity that Chu Qingqian hadn't had before. He nodded slightly. "It started about 3 years ago. I had just brought the team back from the Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Soul Dueling Tournament. When I encountered problems in my martial soul research, I asked Dean Yang to find a few inner courtyard students to help me with my research. You were one of them. Those 2 months that we researched soul tools and martial souls together was probably the time that I was least focused on research in my whole life. I was captured by your sweet temper. However, I didn't know if that feeling was love, even though I'm so old." "You left after 2 months. When you left, I felt that you had taken something from me along with you. It was only later that I realized, it was my heart." This video will end here. Thank you for watching.